SteamOS is an operating system that means a lot of things to a lot of people. For PC gamers, it is an alternative to using Windows on a handheld, and for console gamers, it is a great start to get into the PC gaming community. Now, with Valve partnering with Lenovo to release the Lenovo Legion Go S, which is the first ever non-Steam Deck PC handheld to run SteamOS right out of the box, it really begs the question about whether the Steam Deck will be a great option moving forward, or if the Lenovo Legion Go S will be better. So today, I'll discuss number 1, the history of SteamOS, number 2, information about game performances between the Steam Deck and the Lenovo Legion Go S, and number 3, last but not least, my personal verdict on the pros and cons of both devices. Let's check it out. So when Valve released SteamOS back in 2013, SteamOS was the operating system designed to run the Steam machines, which were also revealed back in 2013. But with the failure of the Steam machines, SteamOS unfortunately failed as well, and it just basically disappeared from the known space in the gaming community. Now, it wasn't until 2022 when the Steam Deck got released when we finally saw SteamOS being utilized again. And SteamOS really got the attention of the gaming community because for some people, they didn't like to deal with the bloat of Windows on a PC handheld, and they really love SteamOS because SteamOS is an operating system tailored to gaming. It has a beautiful UI, as well as you can easily navigate the store, launch a game, as well as if you want to go to desktop mode to do some tinkerings, you could, or install some plugins, and then you're quickly back to game mode where you can launch a game and have fun. And needless to say, the Steam Deck basically caused a lot more people to get interested in PC handhelds in which they normally would not have before. But as far as SteamOS goes, it is not Valve's goal to keep SteamOS as an exclusive to the Steam Deck. For Valve, they wanted, even at the get-go, to have SteamOS become readily available across all different platforms. I mean, on July 16th, 2021, which is actually just one day after Valve revealed the Steam Deck, Valve CEO Gabe Newell, he basically said that he desires for the Steam Deck to be a forerunner for a new PC handheld ecosystem. Notice the keyword ecosystem. At the time, I did not really look too much into it, but what I do think right now, what he said back in the day when he said ecosystem, it meant SteamOS. He wanted the operating system to become more available. He wanted it to be an alternative to gaming on Windows, and what better way to do that is to make SteamOS available on your actual device, on the Steam Deck, and show to other people, have other people experience SteamOS, and if they love it, then that can show that potentially that could be an alternative for an operating system for gaming. And so fast forward to today, SteamOS is now available for other PC handhelds. However, for the most part, the other PC handhelds by default, they all run with Windows. You have to manually dual boot to get SteamOS. However, there is one exception. Okay, that one exception is the Lenovo Legion Go SteamOS Edition. The Lenovo Legion Go SteamOS Edition is basically the device in which Valve collaborated with Lenovo to birth this device that runs SteamOS right out of the box. You don't have to dual boot, SteamOS just comes readily available as if it was a Steam Deck but not a Steam Deck. So with the brief history of SteamOS out of the way, let's talk about the actual meat of this discussion video, the Steam Deck versus the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS Edition. There are actually two versions of the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS Edition. There is one that is called the Lenovo Legion Go S Z1 Extreme, and that is $830, as well as there's a Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS Edition Z2 Go that costs $600. Now, the Z1 Extreme is the higher end model. It is much more powerful than the Z2 Go, but for the purposes of this discussion, I will be talking more about the Lenovo Legion Go S Z2 Go and comparing that with the Steam Deck OLED, because those two devices are very similar from my research, both in the price as well as the specs and performances in the games. It is very, very competitive with the Steam Deck OLED. because the Steam Deck OLED 512 gigabytes, that one is $549. Now with the Lenovo Legion Go S Z2 Go, that device is also 512 gigs, and that runs you at $600. So basically, as far as the Lenovo Legion Go S Z2 Go, it is very comparable to the Steam Deck OLED price. It is just right in between the price point of the 512 gigabyte Steam Deck OLED and the 1 terabyte Steam Deck OLED, which is $650. So that is something to note, is that it is right in between and it is very competitive in price. However, one thing to note is that the Steam Deck OLED maxes out at 15 watts TDP, whereas the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition, as far as the Z2 Go edition one goes, it caps out at 40 watts when plugged into an outlet and 33 watts when not plugged into an outlet. So as far as the battery life goes, if you don't really care about how quick the battery drains, you honestly have more options when it comes to Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition. Now another thing that I would have to say too, as far as the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition, doesn't matter the low end or the higher end, is that they both have a refresh rate of 120 Hz. Now the Steam Deck OLED unfortunately caps out at 90 Hz, so that is also something to consider. Now as far as game performance goes, I looked up ETA Prime. ETA Prime, in case you don't know who that YouTuber is, he basically shows a lot of game performances across various PC handhelds and just discusses about them. So one of the games that ETA Prime tested out was Red Dead Redemption 2. Now as far as Red Dead Redemption 2, he set both devices at a 15 watt TDP, and by the way, 15 watt TDP is the maximum amount of watt TDP that the Steam Deck OLED can do. And when he set it at a 15 watts TDP, the Steam Deck OLED averaged around 46 frames per second, and the Lenovo Legion Go S averaged around 44 frames per second. However, when he bumped the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition up to 20 watts, then he noticed that the average performance of the Lenovo Legion Go S Z2 Go edition when playing Red Dead Redemption 2 averages around 54 frames per second. Now, as far as Forza Horizon 5 goes, ETA Prime set the Steam Deck and the Lenovo Legion Go at 15 watts TDP, and he used the same graphics display settings like usual because that is a fair comparison, and where the Steam Deck OLED averaged around 65 frames per second when playing Forza Horizon 5, and the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition averaged around 63 frames per second on average. Now, when he bumped the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition up to 20 watts TDP, he got around 72 frames per second on average. Now, as far as Black Myth Wukong goes, that is an interesting find, because Black Myth Wukong, when having both the Steam Deck OLED and the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition at 15 watts, the Steam Deck OLED actually performed worse than the Legion Go S. The Steam Deck OLED at 15 watts and with all the same settings as the Legion Go S came in around 44 frames per second on average, but the Legion Go S came in at a 51 frames per second on average. Now, with Legion Go S SteamOS edition bumped to 20 watts, it went up to 56 frames per second. And as far as the battery life goes, both the Steam Deck OLED and the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition with the Z2 Go chip, they both have roughly the same amount of battery life when running those AAA games. Both the Lenovo Legion Go S as well as the Steam Deck OLED averaged around 2 hours and 15 minutes of playtime when going with 15 watts TDP. So the thing is that as far as performance goes, when when I see this video based from ETA Prime, it really looks as if it is a mixed bag of performance. At 15 watts TDP, both the Lenovo Legion Go S and the Steam Deck OLED have the same amount of battery life, especially with AAA games. However, some games at 15 watts TDP, they run better on the Steam Deck OLED, while other games with 15 watts TDP, it runs better on Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition. So that is something to really note, is that honestly, for the $600 price, if you are just looking for performance, unless you are willing to increase the wattage on the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition in order for games to get a better boost, but at the same time have less of a battery life as a trade-off for better performance, I don't see a big reason to upgrade from the Steam Deck OLED if you already have one to the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition Z2 Go chip, the lower end one. However, if you don't have a Steam Deck OLED and looking for a SteamOS device to play games, then that may be a different story. Just keep in mind that the Lenovo Legion Go S Z2 Go edition and the Steam Deck OLED, as far as the game performances goes, performance is a mixed bag, and even when one device kind of performs better at 15 watts TDP, it's not insane enough, in my opinion, to really decide on which one is better. Maybe better off to just go with the Lenovo Legion Go S Z1 Extreme, but again, for that one, it's a bit more pricey. That one is $830. So now that we touched base on the game performance on a few of the AAA games, let's talk about the hardware side of the Steam Deck OLED versus the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition. What do you expect from it? Because as far as handhelds goes, sure, the performance is really important, but also the comfortability of holding the handhelds is also as important. So as far as the Steam Deck goes, it is really nice to use. As you can see over here, the Steam Deck, there is one trackpad on the left side, one trackpad on the right side, and both trackpads are really big and comfortable to use. Now, as far as the back of the Steam Deck, you got two back buttons on the left side and two back buttons on the right side. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as far as the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition goes, there's only one tiny trackpad on the right side of the Legion Go S SteamOS edition, and there is only two back buttons. And the reason why I say this is something to consider is because if you are somebody who likes to play those games where there are these complicated inputs, you may want to consider the Steam Deck OLED because there are more options as far as remapping those controls. However, the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition has a major upper hand when it comes to the screen size. The Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition has an 8-inch screen as opposed to the Steam Deck OLED, which has a 7.4-inch screen. And that is something to definitely put into consideration, in my opinion, because as far as handhelds goes, it's always great to have a screen that is bigger, that you can see things better, and where you can be more submerged into the game, the world, and whatnot. Because remember, even though I did not have a long track record of PC gaming handhelds, I don't have the experience with PC handhelds before the Steam Deck, but I had a lot of different console handhelds, and one of the things about the older console handhelds is that the screen size is so much smaller. Now, back in the day, I didn't really feel that was a big deal, but once I got a hold of the Nintendo Switch and now with the Steam Deck OLED, I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to the smaller screens, and I never really feel like I ever want to go for a screen size that's smaller. I always feel like a bigger screen for handhelds is better, and it feels much more subversive and fun. So personally for me, I feel like that is something great to consider, that some people do care for the screen to be bigger and be able to experience the game better on the go. So to summarize the key points to take away from the research that I did, I would say go with the Lenovo Legion Go S Z2 Go if you want a bigger display screen, you care about having better performance without worrying about reducing the battery life per session of playing games, as well as I would say go with the Lenovo Legion Go S if you don't have have a Steam Deck OLED, or if you are new to the SteamOS ecosystem, I feel like it's better bet to go with the Lenovo Legion Go S due to it having more options to tweak the different amounts of watts. So that is something that will be great to consider, and it has a better refresh rate of 120 Hertz. However, I will say, if you are somebody who has games where there are complicated inputs and you want to remap those different buttons and have more options, then the Steam Deck OLED may be a solid option because it has more buttons. Like I said, there are 2 front pads that are massive and then 4 back buttons, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, as opposed to the Lenovo Legion Go S, which only has 1 tiny trackpad on the right and 2 back buttons, 1 on the left and 1 on the right. So that is something to definitely consider. Also, last but not least, I would say go with the Steam Deck if you are somebody who primarily plays games that are indie and less graphically demanding, because if it is less graphically demanding, you don't really need to have a really powerful PC handheld and you could save a few bucks. But again, that is my personal opinion based on my research. But overall, from my research, I really don't know. I feel like I most likely will hold on to the Steam Deck for a little bit, and we'll see when the Z1 Extreme becomes more available. I might consider to pick that up potentially. Again, I don't know, but regardless of what it is, I will most likely still cover the Steam Deck because at the end of the day, I love you guys, and I know you guys like me love the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck for me, it holds a big part in my heart, so I really love it to death. But regardless of what it is that I will definitely continue to make Steam Deck content. But at the end of the day, as I noticed that games just becoming more and more harder to run on the Steam Deck, it really gets me to really wonder if I should upgrade. Because honestly, as much as I hope that Valve will potentially make a Steam Deck 2, but I don't think personally that they will make a Steam Deck 2, at least not anytime soon, because they are focusing on getting SteamOS across the other devices. And even though they did say that they would potentially make a Steam Deck 2 if there is a generational leap, but if these other devices like the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS Edition or any future SteamOS third-party handhelds come in the way, and if more people embrace it, honestly, Valve might say, look, there is no point to have a Steam Deck 2 since you guys all buy into the third-party SteamOS devices that are more powerful. That could easily happen because they are more focused on software as opposed to hardware. But again, we shall wait and see. As of right now, I'm just gonna be sticking with the Steam Deck and seeing where to go from there. But yeah, friends, this is my discussion about the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS Edition versus the Steam Deck OLED in 2025. Do you think that the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS Edition will be able to take the SteamOS crown away from the Steam Deck? Do you think that the Steam Deck will remain as the king of SteamOS? Are you looking to potentially get a Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS Edition to be able to run the bigger games on the go? Or are you thinking of just sticking with the Steam Deck for now? We'll love to discuss in the comment section below. And as always, if you love gaming lists, gaming reviews, gaming discussions, and everything related to Steam Deck, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so you not miss another video. I try to post Mondays and Fridays around 6 p.m. Pacific time, so stay tuned. Once again, my name is Joey from the Nomadic Gaming Guild, and game on!